For the casual fan sitting at home, the National Football League preseason is just a dress rehearsal. It's glorified practice. You tune in, you see the multi-million-dollar franchise quarterbacks standing on the sidelines in pristine baseball caps, completely avoiding the injury report, and you probably change the channel by the third quarter. But if you look closer, if you actually pay attention to the guys grinding it out in the second half, you realize that for the men on the fringes of the roster, these games are anything but meaningless. They are some of the most violent, high-stakes auditions in all of professional sports. Think about it. A single missed read, one delayed throw, or just a split second of hesitation can literally be the difference between signing a lucrative, life-changing contract extension or packing up your locker in absolute silence before the sun even comes up. Today, we're zooming in on two incredibly different quarterbacks. Two guys with completely different histories, different pedigrees, and different play styles who are suddenly standing on the exact same terrifying precipice in the 2026 preseason. This isn't a story about winning a Super Bowl. This is a story about sheer, desperate survival.
I want you to drop yourself right onto the cold turf in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Thursday Night Football. The Indianapolis Colts have traveled up to Gillette Stadium to face the New England Patriots. Now, if you look past the established starting lineups, past the guys who already have their faces plastered on the stadium banners, you're going to find the real, raw drama unfolding deep in the shadows of the depth chart. Because in this league, your past draft pedigree, it means absolutely nothing when that whistle blows. Those viral highlight reels from 2 years ago, totally irrelevant. In the NFL, you are only as good as your very last snap. So as this stadium fills up with fans expecting a laid-back, casual tune-up game, the reality down on the field is incredibly grim for our two protagonists tonight. Entire careers are literally hanging in the balance here, and there are zero guarantees that either of these men will even be wearing an NFL uniform when September rolls around. The cold, brutal math of cutting down to a 53-man roster doesn't care about your feelings, and it certainly doesn't care about your past.
So what happens when time runs out on your NFL dream? It's a terrifying question. It haunts every single professional athlete, and it's the anchor for our entire explainer today. You know, they say NFL stands for not for long, and the stats back it up. The average career spans less than 3 years. That clock ticks way faster than anyone wants to admit. Over the course of this story, we're going to look incredibly closely at the intense cinematic battle of two men who are fighting for their professional livelihoods against that exact ticking clock. We are diving way beyond the simple box scores here. We need to examine the heavy psychological toll, the immense physical requirements, and the downright ruthless calculus that NFL general managers use when they evaluate tape. Because when time is running out, desperation completely takes over. And as we're about to see, desperation either produces absolute diamonds or it shatters a player completely.
Part 1. Collision Course at Gillette.
Okay, let's dive into this because the collision course set for this Thursday night matchup is genuinely fascinating. We've got two separate franchises using this exact exhibition game as their definitive proving ground. Make no mistake, these coaching staffs aren't just looking for a couple of good plays tonight. They are actively searching for reasons to make their upcoming roster cuts easier. Every single snap is being filmed from 5 different angles. It's going to be broken down in the film room and scrutinized by front offices desperate to finalize their lineups. And right in the middle of this, you have two completely different players who have arrived at the exact same agonizing crossroads. On one sideline, you've got Tommy DeVito. His goal, prove he is unequivocally the man to back up Drake May in New England. On the opposite sideline, Anthony Richardson Sr. His goal, fight tooth and nail to secure the backup role behind Daniel Jones in Indianapolis. It's a stunning reality check, isn't it? One is this undrafted folk hero trying to cement his place as a reliable veteran presence. The other is a former first-round athletic marvel desperately trying to cling to his NFL identity. They are fighting for the exact same job title, QB2, but they are dragging entirely different burdens out onto that field. Part 2. DeVito's path to QB2.
Let's shift our focus entirely to the home sideline for a minute and look at New England. We really need to talk about Tommy Cutlets DeVito and his highly unlikely, incredibly gritty climb up the depth chart. Let's be honest, DeVito wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to be a camp arm, right? A practice squad body, a guy whose only job is to give the starting defense a look during a Wednesday walkthrough. But the NFL has a really funny way of rewarding guys who simply refuse to go away. To understand his value right now, you have to look at this number. 3-5. That was his record over 8 incredibly chaotic starts during the 2023 and 2024 seasons under the bright, unforgiving lights of the New York media market. Now, I know what you're thinking. A losing record doesn't sound like much to brag about, but context is absolutely everything here. He was thrust into a total nightmare scenario behind a completely battered offensive line. He took massive, bone-crushing hits, he managed the pocket under constant duress, and he didn't just fold. He actually won 3 games. He proved to the entire league that he possesses real battle-tested experience. When the pocket collapses, DeVito doesn't panic because he has literally already survived the fire. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer wild unpredictability of his career trajectory. Look at this timeline. Back in 2023, he goes from being an absolute afterthought on the practice squad to starting in the country's biggest market in a matter of weeks, dealing with all the intense media scrutiny that comes with it. Fast forward to 2025, and he lands in New England, taking on the incredibly humbling role of the emergency third-string quarterback. A lot of guys would let their ego get in the way, but he didn't sulk. He just put his head down and worked. He understood the brutal reality of the practice squad grind. By the spring of 2026, he is actively moving up the depth chart, consistently outperforming expectations during organized team activities. And that brings us right here, to this Thursday night. A golden, undeniable opportunity to lock down that QB2 role permanently. He has climbed this ladder rung by slippery rung, and now he is essentially one solid, mistake-free game away from securing a massive insurance policy for the New England Patriots. This simple quote right here reveals the immense psychological resilience required to survive in the National Football League. DeVito himself noted that his wild rookie year taught him the extreme fragility of a roster spot. When you go from the practice squad to the starting lineup in mere weeks, it completely alters how you view the game forever. It forces you into this constant state of hypervigilance. What does that actually look like on a daily basis? It means taking intense mental reps behind the starter every single practice. It means staying in the team facility until 2 in the morning, chugging coffee and studying defensive fronts. DeVito treats every single practice rep, every film session, and every exhibition snap like he's a 10-year veteran starter. Why? Because he knows intimately that the guy holding the clipboard today might be the guy holding the entire fate of the franchise tomorrow. But what has really set DeVito apart this spring, and what has given him the inside track for this backup job, is his deeply cerebral approach. He's been tasked with learning offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels' highly complex system. For the hardcore football purist out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This isn't some simple plug-and-play college offense. It's rooted in demanding concepts that require instant pre-snap motion recognition, split-second sight adjustments, and incredibly intricate option routes that change based on defensive leverage. But reports coming out of camp indicate DeVito's transition has been remarkably smooth. Because he was forced to process chaotic blitz packages and digest a heavy playbook completely on the fly back in New York, the massive mental load in Foxborough hasn't overwhelmed him in the slightest. He is playing fast because he's thinking fast. He's allowing his physical mechanics to just naturally follow his eyes without any of that fatal hesitation.
But here is exactly where the tension dials up. Listen to his own words about running the system. It gives the quarterback all the rein. Now, having all the rein sounds super empowering on the surface, right? But it is a massive double-edged sword. If everything flows through the quarterback, then absolutely every single mistake, every blown protection call at the line of scrimmage, and every misread coverage falls squarely on his shoulders. The coaching staff is handing him the keys to a very complicated, high-performance machine. If he shifts into the wrong gear, the whole engine blows. To win this job on Thursday night, Tommy DeVito doesn't need to throw a flashy 60-yard bomb into double coverage. He needs to show complete, unquestioned command and competence. For him, this game is entirely about execution over heroics. So let's break down exactly how New England is approaching this critical exhibition. Head coach Mike Vrabel has already confirmed that Drake May is sitting this one out entirely to preserve his health for the regular season. So the spotlight turns immediately to DeVito, who gets the very first opportunity to run the offense with the second-team unit. But he's got a shadow. Rookie Baron Morton is waiting right there on the sidelines, hungry for his own film and ready to pounce on any opportunity. And make no mistake, Mike Vrabel is the ultimate judge and jury here. Vrabel is evaluating snap by snap if DeVito is the right steady safety net for May. Vrabel's evaluation in real time will totally dictate the timeline of this game. The exact moment Vrabel feels he has seen enough, whether that's brilliant command of the huddle or disastrous decision-making, DeVito's night is over, and the rookie steps in. The clock is relentlessly ticking from the very first snap. Part 3, a sad Colts story. Let's move to the other side of the field and see how this builds.
We are pivoting dramatically to the Indianapolis Colts sideline now. Because if DeVito's story is one of a gritty underdog overachieving against all odds, the story unfolding in Indy is a sobering, harsh look at the fragile nature of NFL potential. It is the tragedy of a fallen star fighting desperately to avoid washing out of the league completely. 3. I just want to pause for a second and let the heavy weight of that number sink in. 3 years. That is how long Anthony Richardson Sr. has been with the Indianapolis Colts. 3 years of carrying immense expectations, following his incredible draft hype. 3 years of attempting to harness generational, freakish physical tools that had scouts absolutely salivating. 3 years that were genuinely supposed to redefine the quarterback position in the AFC. But instead, due to a string of brutal injuries, wild inconsistencies, and the sheer unforgiving speed of the pro game, those 3 years have led directly to this exact moment, standing on a sideline in Foxborough, literally fighting for scraps. It's a harsh, blunt assessment, But it's the exact reality being reported on the ground by beat writers and analysts across the league. The narrative surrounding Richardson's tenure in Indianapolis has fully devolved into one word: sad. We are looking at a documentary-style decline of a once promising narrative. When you enter the league with that much fanfare, with that much raw, unteachable physical ability, your leash is usually pretty long. The front office wants you to succeed because their own jobs depend on it. But at the end of the day, the NFL is purely a production business. Potential simply doesn't win division titles. The injuries slowly chipped away at his superhero armor, and the inconsistencies on film completely shattered the confidence of the coaching staff. The immense pressure he faced today isn't about proving he's a star capable of carrying a franchise anymore. It's about proving he even belongs in an NFL quarterback room at all.
Part 4, Richardson's fight for survival. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is that we cannot frame this upcoming game as just another preseason tune-up for the Colts. That would be completely ignoring the massive stakes at play. This Thursday night at Gillette Stadium is, without exaggeration, the absolute most important game of Anthony Richardson Sr.'s entire career. Period. It is a sheer fight for survival. Just look at the stark, undeniable reality of the Colts' current depth chart. Daniel Jones, the former Giant, has arrived and established himself as the clear, undisputed starting quarterback for Indianapolis. That battle? It's over. The front office made their choice. That leaves Anthony Richardson Sr. fighting purely for survival against Riley Leonard. He isn't trying to win a franchise back. He is trying to fend off a hungry, aggressive challenger just to secure the privilege of holding a clipboard on Sundays. It is a massive, humbling shift in reality. If he fails to execute tonight, if he looks lost, hesitant, or careless with the football, the Colts front office will have all the justification they need to finally turn the page and cut their losses.
And Colts head coach Shane Steichen is definitely not mincing words about his plan for this evaluation. He bluntly stated that Richardson will start and play the first two halves, meaning the vast bulk of the game, with Riley Leonard coming in to finish up the late quarters. This quote tells us two very important things about how the Colts view the situation. First, the coaching staff feels they absolutely need to see a large, undeniable sample size of Richardson running the offense in a live-fire scenario against an opposing defense. Practice reps behind closed doors are no longer enough to save him. Second, his window to prove himself is extremely defined, and it is rapidly closing right before our eyes. The exact moment he jogs to the sideline and hands the ball off to Leonard in the later stages of the game, his resume for the 2026 season is effectively submitted and sealed. There are no more second chances after tonight.
So as these two men take the exact same field tonight, look at the completely differing psychological burdens they carry with them. DeVito's task is incredibly clear-cut. Show control, execute McDaniel's complex system with absolute competence, and perform zero forced heroics. He just needs to steer the ship safely into the harbor without scraping the dock. But Richardson's task? It is fraught with existential professional dread. He must actively fend off a direct, breathing challenger in Riley Leonard to quite literally save his NFL career. The pressure of knowing every single incomplete pass, every slightly off-target throw, or every misread coverage might be the very last one you make in an NFL uniform, it's staggering. One quarterback is operating with the quiet confidence of system mastery and hard-earned grit. The other is operating in a desperate, frantic survival mode, trying to stave off the end of the road.
Part 5. The final verdict.
As the fourth quarter winds down and the stadium begins to empty out, the real work for these franchises actually begins. The climactic buildup of this single exhibition game certainly doesn't end at the locker room doors. The final verdict handed down based on the tape from this Thursday night will create massive ripple effects throughout the entire 2026 season for both Patriots and the Colts. Remember, a backup quarterback is a crucial insurance policy, and both Mike Vrabel and Shane Steichen are deciding exactly what kind of insurance they can afford to carry into September. So the crucial point is understanding the brutal, rapid sequence of events that follows. First, the final whistle blows at Gillette. Immediately, the game film is uploaded to the coaching tablets on the sideline and heavily reviewed on the flight home. Step 2. Mike Vrabel sits down in his office and evaluates if Tommy DeVito showed enough cerebral command and poise to be the designated safety net for Drake May. Step 3. Shane Steichen looks at the exact same game tape and makes the agonizing, franchise-altering decision of whether Anthony Richardson Sr. survives the final cut over Riley Leonard. There is no sentimentality in these rooms. There are no feelings. It is cold, hard, unforgiving tape evaluation.
Which brings us to the ultimate defining question of the night. The decisions made in the next 48 hours will permanently alter the trajectory of 4 different quarterbacks' lives. When the stadium lights go down and the front offices finalize their mandatory roster reductions, who actually survives the final cut in Foxborough? Does the scrappy resilience and elite pocket awareness of Tommy Cutlets secure his spot in New England as the ultimate underdog success story? Does the desperate final stand of Anthony Richardson Sr. afford him one last lifeline in Indianapolis to try and reclaim his lost potential? Or does the unforgiving, churn-and-burn nature of the National Football League claim another set of dreams? The tape is rolling, the evaluators are watching, and the verdict is entirely in their hands.
The intense drama of roster cuts is the true beating heart of the NFL offseason, and this Thursday night battle is just one piece of a massive, league-wide puzzle. If you want to keep following this story, and if you crave more deep-dive, cinematic football content that goes way beyond the simple box scores, you need to join the NFL Nexus community right now. Hit that subscribe button, like this explainer so we can keep bringing you these deep explorations, and I really want to hear from you. Drop a comment below on who you think wins these QB battles and why. And if you truly love the content and want to help us grow, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Until next time, keep your eyes on the tape.